to an HMO. Hey, why does Hell's healthcare suspiciously mirror America's? Is my whole afterlife ordeal some thinly disguised, eye-rolling fit of social commentary?
Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And
I'm Jeff Onan.
Happy New Year, Jeff.
Happy New Year, Hyle.
Today, with, of course, the Kongversation season finale, we have a chance to look forward, and I don't want to be too much of an optimist, but we have a chance of building towards a better future again. So this is the first season finale in a while that I'm feeling optimistic, and I'm feeling like the future is bright, not just for the body politic, but also for the DKU. And we'll be getting into all of that. I do want to offer a quick apology. On the final episode of the Banjo-Tooie Spotlight, I was discussing the landscape of Pterodactyl Land, and I was referring to the infamous, we'll call it an Easter egg in Pterodactyl Land's overhead view, and I referred to it as a male organ, and I realized, like, as soon as I said it, that I was using language that was being exclusionary. I once I said it, I was like, oh shit. So I do apologize. I'm trying to, grow as a person, and I'm also trying to set aside, like, language and words and terms that I was taught when I was a kid, and it's kind of hard to retrain the brain, especially when you blabber on and on and on, and you kind of fall back on default language that you were taught. But I do apologize to everyone, and I will try to do better. I'm truly sorry. But hey, I'm looking to be better, and this coming year is looking to be better. So let's discuss it, Jeff.
Yeah. Honestly, it feels more like, it's more than the dawn of a new year. I don't know why this word popped into my head. It feels somehow like the dawn of a new administration. I don't know where that word.
That's a weird word. Nobody uses that's a word you wouldn't use. That's
I wouldn't
strange.
Use that word.
Yeah,
there's something about it. It's just it's a big old time of change, a positive change, probably.
Yeah. So let's talk about the year ahead for the DKU, because I think this is going to be interesting, and I don't know fruitful it's actually going to be, because we just came off of a year that was pretty much besieged by a worldwide pandemic, which we're still in the middle of. Not trying to downsell or like skirt the issue that it's still very much a problem, but the pandemic did sort of slow down everything, especially when it came to the entertainment industry and the development and production of numerous things, video games included. So, what we might have been anticipating for this year might take a little bit longer now, but there are a lot of things in the works. And so I think this year, 2021, represents potential. And that potential is very exciting. And we're just going to start with the one that I think our audience is most interested in, and that is a new Donkey Kong game.
That's right. Yeah, let's get that out of the way so they can tune out for the rest.
Everybody's tired. I just want to let them go home early. It's a half day. It's a half podcast. Early dismissal. You get to go and take a nap. So obviously this is the 40th anniversary of the original arcade Donkey Kong. This summer will be the 40th anniversary of the release of that arcade game that, well, not only started Donkey Kong, but started Mario and really made Nintendo more of a household name as far as video games go. That's really, Miyamoto got to start with that game. It is a landmark game, and we don't know if Nintendo is going to acknowledge that anniversary in any way, because it's also The Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary. So, Donkey Kong usually gets the short straw when it comes to this. But I say usually just because of the historical precedent. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. And we do know that Nintendo is very much interested and invested in making Donkey Kong somewhat of a bigger priority than it has been in the last 20 years or so. And part of that is them developing the next Donkey Kong game internally at Nintendo EPD. Now, this is a rumor that we have talked about. I think we were the first ones to openly discuss this in the last year or so on this very podcast, but it's a rumor that's now being picked up by other rumor mongers, and it's kind of out there now. People are openly discussing this possibility of Donkey Kong EPD, this new Donkey Kong game for the Switch, being developed in Japan. So, Jeff, I'm optimistic about this. I think it's a certainty that it's happening. All my sources indicate that it is. But I was wondering how you're feeling about the possibility. Because, DK Vine, in our storied history, in our angsty teen years, we... or actually, I guess these were more of our terrible twos or whatever. We were very, resistant to change when it came to Donkey Kong. And when Rare went off with Xbox and the future of Donkey Kong was uncertain, we were very hesitant towards, at the time, Nintendo EAD, the predecessor to EPD, making Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and it was a different time, and I think we've all grown as people and as fans, and we're more open to it now, but also the circumstances are different as well. This isn't 2004, and I think the game we're going to get will be something that hews a lot more closely to what the DK Vine audience would want out of a Donkey Kong game than something like Jungle Beat was at the time.
Well, I don't want to say I'm pessimistic. I will say I'm apprehensive. First of all,
Sure.
I do want to point out EPD, for anyone who maybe doesn't exactly know what that is the largest kind of subsidiary of Nintendo. It's not a singular team.
No.
It's a bunch of teams. It's a large studio with sub-teams working on different things. So when you say, it's the successor to EAD, somebody's going to think, so it's the same team that made Jungle Beat is now making another Donkey Kong. No, that's not what that means. EPD is a large umbrella term for a lot of teams within Nintendo. To
put it in terms that our audience would understand, it's a lot like the old structure of Rare, where Rare existed, but then in Rare there were all these different teams in what they called barns, making the different games. So you would have the males team, you would have Chris Seaver, you would have all the different bunches, George Andreas, and now I think that analogy, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I think it's the easiest way to understand what EPD is.
Yeah, and I think so what we're going to get is not as predictable as you might think. People think they want to take that name and they want to automatically tie it to something and say, right. EPD, so that's the Mario Odyssey team.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't know. We don't know which team. We in it very well, and some of the rumors are suggesting it's a new team.
And that's what I've heard as well.
Right.
And so from what I hear, this team working on Donkey Kong is a lot of the younger devs at EPD who grew up with Super Donkey Kong, which of course is the Japanese name for Donkey Kong Country, grew up with the trilogy, are huge fans of it, and have been champing at the bit to work on Donkey Kong. And this whole process of them bringing DK back internally has been several years in the making. There's a whole story to tell one day about how we got to this point, but suffice to say, stuff has been cooking for DK for years now, and it's taken longer to get here than Nintendo would have liked, but I think ultimately they decided for what they want out of the franchise, it made the most sense to bring it back home to Japan. And looking at how these younger devs are fans of DKC, and we saw a lot of that reflected in Odyssey. And I'm not saying like I know who exactly is working on the new Donkey Kong game, but we saw in Odyssey all of the references and homages to the Donkey Kong Country games in New Donk City. And so, this isn't a case where it's 2004 and Nintendo EAD is making a Donkey Kong game, and the usual politics at work at Nintendo, well, these aren't our characters, so we don't really want to touch them. This is going to be a different Donkey Kong game. We want to do our own thing with it out of respect for what came before. That's not really applicable here. These are fans of Donkey Kong Country, and they're going to want to play in that world. Now, that doesn't mean everybody should run into this thinking we're going to see every single Animal Buddy, all of the Kremlings, the Brothers Bear, Troff and Scoff. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. This is still going to be Nintendo. And even when we saw Retro Studios making Donkey Kong Country, they were very conservative when it came to what characters and concepts to bring back. So I think you're going to see more of that, but I do think you might see a little bit more freedom and a little bit more celebration of what came before than you might expect. It's going to be about 50-50, I would say. So don't get ahead of yourselves. Don't get too excited, but don't walk into it being so worried that you're not going to enjoy the whole ride. I think, as Donkey Kong fans, we should be apprehensive, be guarded, but also look forward to what's to come. I think that's not a contradiction.
Yeah, so for my perspective, I think it's just the unknown factors that give me apprehension, that I really am going to feel very nervous, not pessimistic, but not at all optimistic either, until the day I see footage. I will not unclench until that moment. And the reason is because there's a lot of factors, there's a lot of things it could be. You look at something like the Splatoon team, which is another one of the EPD barns, so to speak. And they were given absolute freedom. And it is a team of much younger devs that game, Splatoon, and the sequel, they were developed, I think, with a lot of very rare sensibilities. Lots of unnecessary NPCs to serve not functions that didn't need to be represented by NPCs. A lot of deep story lore and funny, punny character names and humor and things that some of your more traditionalist Nintendo games would eschew and would not prioritize. And you look at, I think that Splatoon team's given freedom because Splatoon wasn't an IP. It was a brand new thing, and it didn't matter if there was no traditional structure they had to stick to. And then you look at something like Super Mario Odyssey, and those guys are given quite a lot of freedom. They're not being lorded over by necessarily a old diehard, one of the old guard members of Nintendo who's saying what they can and can't do in Mario. That team that has been making the 3D Mario games for years, they have a lot of freedom to do unique stuff and bring back old stuff whenever they want. But I get nervous when it comes to Donkey Kong because we've already seen examples numerous times of internal Nintendo having weird ideas of what you can bring back to Donkey Kong, what needs to be original, and thinking, well, just make a good game and make your own original characters so you don't get distracted trying to make an old game. We want it to be a new game. Don't just remake Donkey Kong Country. Why have the Kremlings and stuff like that? And then I think it will really depend on how much freedom they're given. If the Splatoon team, they're given so much freedom. If this is a scenario like that, I think we're in good hands. If it's a scenario of, well, Mr. Miyamoto's got nothing else going on and he works in the same building, so he's going to be really hands-on and he's gonna say, why would you bring back Copter, the Kremling from Donkey Kong Country 3? Why not create a new character? And they're gonna be like, all right, I guess so, Mr. Miyamoto, you're the man. We'll see. And so I'm not pessimistic. I think that what we're gonna get, if I'm being realistic, is something probably along the lines of a Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah.
Maybe quite a bit of original content, not bringing back dozens of old characters. Something that does kind of have an overarching goal to carve out new direction for the series, not just revive old stuff. But that could still be good, and it's hard to say how much, whether it will build on Tropical Freeze or whether it will feel like a step backwards to even more bare bones cast like Returns had. I'm also in here. I wanted to get your read on this, Hyle.
Sure.
I get a weird sense that there's a contingent of the high ups in Nintendo that have a very different idea of what Donkey Kong's personality is than we do. I get this fear that they think, oh, Donkey Kong, he is a greedy buffoon. He is a doofus, and he's angry and violent and greedy.
I think that interpretation is there amongst certain Nintendo higher ups for sure, but I also think it's hard to portray that when he's partnered with Diddy. It's the Cameron Regal theory. It's the Cameron Regal theory, where so long as Diddy is there, it's impossible for DK, whether the intent is there or not, to be portrayed as anything but heroic and noble. And that is held true for every single appearance made by those two together. It's when you cut off Diddy that Donkey seems like an antagonist or a brute or a buffoon. And you see that in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. You see that a little bit in Jungle Beat, where even if his intentions are noble in that game, he comes across as this, this Mountain Dew swilling edgelord who just goes around with his tongue sticking out, beating up animals in the wild. I think we don't have a lot to worry about, because there's also, and this has always been the case, there's developer intention and then there's the way it reads in game. And so DK Vine always goes with the way it reads in game versus these bizarre developer notions like, people at Rare saying, oh, we never intended for there to be a shared universe. Banjo does not exist in Donkey Kong's world. Conker does not exist in Banjo's world. It's like, yeah, but they do. So I'm not so worried about that. I understand the fear, but I think it will ultimately work out all right, because you can't really rewrite the relationship between Donkey and Diddy Kong. And I don't see this project not having Diddy Kong involved. I think we don't know what kind of game it is. There are a lot of rumors that it's going to be a 2D platformer. I haven't really heard much of anything from my sources about what kind of game it is, but I would imagine it's not just directly picking up where Tropical Freeze left off. I don't think Nintendo would want to do that. I think it might be a different kind of platformer. I definitely do think it's a platformer. I just don't know, like, people think it either has to be something like New Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Odyssey. Like, they think it's either a cheap 2D platformer retread, or it is this going to be this incredibly groundbreaking 3D platformer. And I'm just like, I don't know, but it doesn't have to be one or the other just because EPD is involved. Like you said, it's not just, oh, Nintendo EPD makes all these games. And if this is a new team, they're going to be doing their own thing. So
yeah, I guess my last thought on the subject is, I think that the more heavily they have oversight from one of the really old guard, the less I'm probably going to like it. And this is not just like a dig at any individual in Nintendo. it's kind of an umbrella dig at everyone who's over the age of 60 or 55 in the world.
You just hate boomers so much, Jeff.
It's the thing. You know what? I think it's not okay. Not everyone in the game industry that's of a certain age is a detriment, because a lot of great leaders have the leadership quality to let new ideas foster. Okay? I don't know if I think some of those individuals at Nintendo are really known for that. And I think, you look at the kind of, some of these franchises are seen to have sort of a one kind of caretaker individual.
Yeah.
You look at, if you're making a Metroid game, you're gonna have to run everything by Sakamoto. He's gonna have some say in that. If you're running the Zelda team has their guy, and Tanabe was pretty heavily involved with Retro's Donkey Kong games. He's also been doing a lot of the Metroid Prime stuff. So you look at some of these old guard people, and I think anytime you have these behind the scenes stories that are like, cool idea was shot down, no, don't do this, don't do that, it's always because you had one very old guy who has been working on that franchise for 30 years, and he has some idea of what it has to be, and and it can hold things back. And I think some of my favorite Nintendo games of the past 10 years or so have been the ones that, if you were to ask who is the old guy in charge of that team, nobody would have an answer, because the old guy in charge of that team is like maybe 40 or 35. And it's like, I think your Mario Odysseys, your Splatoons, some of your really great games, they don't have that like strong level of executive oversight that is telling them no. And I think that how much I enjoy this game is going to come down to which side of the line it lands on in that regard. If you have, and Tanabe's busy with Metroid Prime 4,
right,
so we don't have to worry about that guy for a minute. But if Miyamoto is sitting there twiddling his thumbs, he makes me nervous. That guy, I get nervous when Miyamoto chimes in, because I kind of want him to, work on his little side projects. Those can turn out cool.
It's like, what if Donkey Kong blows things? It's like, okay, that's sure, we'll implement that. Whatever you say.
Can't you make a really uninspired bad Star Fox game and leave us alone? Like, much respect to Mr. Miyamoto.
I will say though that,
but I like the young teams in their own freedom, is what I'm saying.
I'm sure there will be some oversight when it comes to the first Donkey Kong game developed by this team, but I think we need to get this first game in to allow for growth for the future. And that's my last thought on this, is that, we liked Donkey Kong Country Returns quite a bit at DKVI, but I think all of us agree that Tropical Freeze just blew it out of the water. And I think Donkey Kong's biggest problem since Rare sort of parted ways with the franchise is that there hasn't been room to grow. It's been shuffled around from developer to developer, studio to studio, and there's been myriad of ideas for Donkey Kong, but no real clear evolution, aside from you got Returns to Tropical Freeze or King of Swing to Jungle Climber, but we need a foundation again. And I think what bringing Donkey Kong back internally will provide is that foundation and room for growth in the future. And that's going to be really good for those who maybe want to see old characters come back, but are constantly shot down because it keeps bouncing around. And I'm more excited for the future than I am necessarily for this game itself, if that makes any sense.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, if this is the start of a consistent release cycle for Donkey Kong that we haven't had for 20 years, that one team is just going to work on Donkey Kong sequels, and we're going to get them every 3 years for Infinity or whatever, then that's great. Because you look at things like Kirby, and that's what they get to do. Kirby's pumping out a sequel every 2 years, and now you're we're a good number of years into that kind of Kirby revival, and they're really digging deep in the well for Kirby characters because they have the freedom to do that because there's several sequels in, and they just keep digging deeper into the series past while doing new things. So you're right. I think that we kind of, if we can eat this first game and it's at least acceptable to us, then it's the start of hopefully just a new era, a new administration for Donkey Kong.
God, Jeff, that was just soaring. That really lifted my spirits. You should write for, I don't know, Biden. You should be a speechwriter.
I could. I can. I think I get his like mannerisms down. He's like, "Listen here, Jack." I don't know. That's how I'd start every speech.
All right. Well, Donkey Kong. We don't know if it's going to be announced this year. We don't even know if it's going to. Well, we don't know if it's going to be released this year. We don't even know if it's going to be announced this year. But
maybe it got canceled. So watch this spot, and we'll make sure to break the sad news to you when we find out.
That being said, I think we have reasons to be optimistic for Donkey Kong news this year. Let's go to Donkey Kong's former home. No, not that former home. Their other former. No, not that former home. The one before. No, the one before that. I'm talking about Rare. So Rare has been continually pumping out content in 2020. Their Sea of Thieves updates were kind of stymied a bit thanks to the pandemic and everyone working from home, but they still managed to have their monthly updates and their big events. But the structure to Sea of Thieves updates are changing in 2021. Would you like to explain a little bit of how that game is going to look going forward?
Yeah, so sometime in the next few weeks, we don't have a hard date, because as with everything Sea of Thieves over the past year, hitting hard release date schedules has been kind of tough with working from home and all of the unexpected delays. But anyway, sometime in the next few weeks, they're going to be launching a new structure to the game, which is called season content, which you might be familiar with things like this if you've played other online games. Although, if you're starting to get tense up at the idea of like seasons and like, what battle pass and all these like consumer predatory practices, that's not what this is. So hold on. Let me explain it. But basically, they're going to move to a schedule that's more 3-monthly, quarterly schedule versus the monthly thing. They're still going to have monthly updates, but it's going to be built more around one larger feature per quarter, and then kind of these, as they've been doing a lot throughout 2020, online events, event hub challenges, which just take content that's already in the game and give you a new checkbox list of challenges to do with new rewards. So you can repeat old content in new ways a lot of times, and stuff that you haven't engaged with in a while. So they're going to keep doing that. They're going to do this kind of 3-monthly thing, and it's going to be strung together with a new kind of progression, which is the season. So season 1 is going to start late January or perhaps in February, and over the course of that season, you'll be able to level up your season progress by doing things in the game that you normally would do, and it's kind of a way of giving you more freedom that no matter what you do in the game, it's going to earn you progress towards the season. So you don't have to feel like, I want to do this activity because it's fun, but it doesn't give me as much progress, so it's a waste of time. You don't have to feel that way, because everything you do in the game, whether you're just exploring or doing tall tales or whatever you want to do, it's going to progress you towards your season goals, and that gives you kind of a long-term list of levels to level up that each level will give you a reward. So sort of like a battle pass system in other games, but I want to clarify, it's not a paid for thing, it's free content. Although on top of that, there is a plunder pass, which is paid for, I think it's $10. So $10 a quarter, I will definitely be buying. But basically, that is like...
Wait, if it's $10 for 25 cents? For a quarter. Gotcha.
Quarterly.
Words mean different things, Jeff.
Sorry, my bad. Anyway, the Plunder Pass is basically it's an additional track on that level up system that you're going to go on, and as you level up that system, it just adds a new layer of rewards that you unlock as you level up the season. And it's like Pirate Emporium stuff, the stuff you normally would buy from the Emporium. I think they have said maybe it will be early preview of items that are yet to come to the Emporium, and also discounted items that have already been in the Emporium. And they said it's something like, I don't know, $40 worth of Emporium stuff that you'll earn if you buy the pass and level it up all the way, for the $10 or whatever it's going to cost. So anyway, it's not a battle pass in the way Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone, a lot of these other online games do. It's basically the actual season content itself, 100% free, and it's just a new way to level up. So for players that maxed out their levels, this adds an always refreshing progression track. It never maxes out. You level up for the season, and when the season's over, you'll start a new season, and then you can start leveling up again. So you always feel like you are making progress while you play. You don't feel like you have hit the limit, or you don't feel like an activity is wasted time. And then you earn a lot more cosmetics that way. So one of the things that I've been kind of critical of is that they've slowed down the rate at which you could earn cosmetics in the game. There's not a lot of new stuff to earn versus stuff you can buy from the Emporium. But this is fixing that because the season lets you earn a lot of cosmetics as you level up. So that's going to be cool. And then the Plunder Pass is basically just like, for $10 you get a bunch of random Emporium stuff. So it's not really like a battle pass. It's more just like a coupon code or something, like buy this coupon book to get a bunch of free shit. I don't know what it is, but it's overall, I think it's very in tune with Sea of Thieves design sensibilities, which has been, yes, we're making an online game. Yes, we have to have microtransactions and other forms of income flow, but Sea of Thieves from the very start has been extremely conscious not to be predatory, and not to sell pay to win scheme or anything that kind of forces you into paying money. And so everything's been optional. This is going to continue to be that way. It's going to be optional. You'll have a ton of cosmetics you can earn and content you can play for absolute free. But then they've got this kind of in the progression track that comes with that, and then they've got just this other added stream of revenue for those people that, basically for people who are already paying into the Emporium, really. So it's not really going to change much in terms of the paid track, but I think it's going to change significantly the progression feel. We're going to feel every day like we're being productive, no matter what we want to do, which is great.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've struggled with on our streams when we play together. Is, well, we have to get this checklist of stuff done, and sometimes it feels very arbitrary to what we would actually like to be doing. But that it's like held over our heads. No, we need to do this. We need to do that. Doing that would be pointless and worthless when we got to get this stuff done. So it's nice that there's maybe been a rethink about how to approach the monthly stuff versus just the simple act of playing the game.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that we'll get the kinds of new content on top of that we want. They're not slowing down adding new stuff. I mean, they're slowing down like the release schedule, but I think it's more conducive to, we can have a big feature. We can really make sure it's functional every quarter, every season, and really spend a lot of time testing it. But I'm hopeful we're going to get more tall tales. I'm hopeful that they're still progressing the story. All of these things seem to still be coming. and the gameplay features, and they don't seem to be slowing down their vision for supporting this game. In fact, I think the addition of seasons this late into the game shows a massive investment in keeping this thing going and continuing to add more, because if you weren't going to be adding new content, you wouldn't be starting up seasons. Mm-hmm. The seasons get people to come in and play the new content. The new content gets people to come in and progress the season. They feed into one another, and if you're not supporting the game with new content, then you don't have a season. So this, to me, just shows a renewed investment. Not that they weren't already they've never had a lapse in investment, but it just shows it's still not lapsing. They're going to continue to support this game for years to come with new content. So I'm very excited. Yep. And since I think we've lost everyone who, other than the most diehard Sea of Thieves players, I feel free in this moment to say that Sea of Thieves is better than your favorite game. Send me hate mail.
Oh.
No, they all tuned out. Nobody's listening.
Except the people making the new Donkey Kong game.
I'll challenge them to put pirates in a Donkey Kong game, and if they take me up on that, I'll be a very happy boy.
They're going to put Brash Bear in the game just to please you, Jeff, just to win over the Jeff Onan vote.
They're going to give him some other name, and they're like, oh, in Japan it was localized as this, so that's his new name now, and my whole life will be broken.
Well, we can always fan wank it that one of them is just his nickname, and
true.
And,
yeah.
Brash is still canon. Elsewhere at Rare, I very much doubt we're going to see anything concerning Everwild this year. We'll probably see more trailers, more glimpses of it, but I don't think a 2021 release date is in the cards, and I don't think it ever was.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's early days for that one, and that's going to be one of those really big games that Microsoft can kind of tout for a couple years.
Yeah.
As this big thing that's coming, and I think that's what it will be.
And that's fine. I think, especially because Rare has Sea of Thieves, and Sea of Thieves is continuing to bring in a new audience, and Microsoft and Xbox Studios, they're still very much promoting Sea of Thieves as this big current thing, which it is. I mean, it's on boxes of Cheez-Its right now. Cheez-Its.
It is, right now, Cheez-Its, which are better than Cheese Nips. And I'll also say, I do think that Rare will continue to branch out with more side projects, like things like Battletoads. But I do want to say that I don't think we're going to see much of that come to fruition in 2021.
No, I think Perfect Dark is it, as far as... and obviously, they're not as hands-on with Perfect Dark as they were with Battletoads, even though that was very much Delala's game. It was still also a Rare game.
Rare published that game, and did quite a lot of work helping them promote that game. But Perfect Dark is more of a large Microsoft production, with their own studio that they've built around that game. So, yeah, but I think there will be more stuff like their relationship with Delala. I just think we're not going to see the fruition of that right away.
No, and not that I know or even think that anything is immediately in the works like that, but also after 2020 and just kind of the big wrench it threw into the gears of everything production-wise, I don't think we would have seen anything this year anyway. So I think this year is more about like regrouping after 2020 and getting back to a sense of normalcy. And then maybe we can start looking towards, or they can start looking towards. I have no say now. Why am I including the we? But they can start looking into it and being like, okay, well, what other properties could we bring back with another studio? Maybe what could we have a hand in? And it might be Banjo. I don't know.
Right. And if other studios are approaching them with ideas and pitches,
yes,
I feel like in the midst of a pandemic and working from home, it's one of the least conducive times to reach out to an outside studio and coordinate with one another. It's kind of probably more of a, things are a little crazy right now. You can't just pop down the road and go, hop on an airplane and go visit this other studio and sit down and listen to their pitch in person and kind of talk details. I'm not pretending to actually know what this is like. I own a computer, so I know what it's like to talk to someone on the computer, and I feel like it's hard to do good work. It's not the same as that in-person communication.
There is definitely something detached and something that just doesn't click as much as in person. That's why this podcast is always so stilted and unnatural,
right?
So
no, but I'm just saying, the people who are in the Sea of Thieves team talking to each other and working on Sea of Thieves, that's one thing. But when a completely outside studio reaches out to you and says, "Hey, we have a pitch for a game," it's a little hard to coordinate that over Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right.
Than it normally would be. So, yeah, I don't know. Don't expect too much. Here's the thing: is expect only a little, and then hope for a lot. Right? Is that what
right.
the phrase is?
That what? If it's not, it should be.
It's Biden's slogan, I think. Well, moving over to Playtonic games.
Yes. So Playtonic, also they've been hit with the work at home bug that we.
That's really going around, isn't it?
Gee, I hope they have a vaccine for that soon. But we don't. The difference with Playtonic is we don't know what's in the works with Playtonic. They're obviously working on something. And we know that they've been working on it since Impossible Lair, but the only thing we know that's coming from Playtonic in 2021 for sure is another big cameo. And in this case, it's not Yooka-Laylee appearing in the game, it's Trouser appearing in Clive and Wrench, which is one of the early 3D platformer indie revivals that was kind of a contemporary of the same time period as Hat in Time and Lobo Destroyo. Clive and a Wrench is finally seen released this year, and Trouser is appearing in it. And Rob, the developer of Clive and Wrench, also is a DK Vine reader, and I've had some friendly correspondences with him, and I'm really looking forward to this game. I think this should definitely be a nice placeholder as far as those who are wanting a new Yooka-Laylee or a new Banjo-Kazooie or a 3D Donkey Kong game. I think Clive and Wrench will definitely scratch some of those itches for sure. It's very much partially inspired by the original version of Conker, 12 Tales Conker 64. And it looks great. It's looking like the kind of game that I'm very nostalgic from the late 90s, and I'm very glad we have an excuse to cover it now fully. So.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like if you're really, the fandom in a metaphor is craving roast beef and cheddar from Arby's.
Oh God, Jeff!
And then this guy Rob comes along and he's like, "Well, I don't have that, but I have the roast beef and cheddar slider from Arby's," and we're like, "Well, that'll kind of scratch the same itch a little. I won't fill me up, but I'll get I won't be so empty on the stomach." And then he'll offer you some curly fries from Arby's, and you'd be like, "Well, I do like the curly fries, so give it a shot."
I was hoping to end one Kongversation season without violent diarrhea, and I feel like your constant references to Arby's are definitely stirring my bowels.
I haven't gone a week of 2020 without violent diarrhea.
Violent diarrhea, by the way, is the diarrhea that harms another person.
Yeah, I have type 2 diarrhea, like the President of the United States. Anyway.
What? All right, so yeah, but, it's also possible Playtonic will kind of tip their hat to what they're working on as well this year, because it will be 2 years come September or October that Impossible Lair came out.
Right.
And it was about 2 years between the release of Yooka-Laylee and that 2.5 years or so. So,
and it was about 2 years since the announcement of the Kickstarter to the release of Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, so we might... I don't think we're going to see a new game from Playtonic this year. I would be surprised. At the same time, I could see them definitely announce what they're working on. So, but if not, hey, we've got Clive and Wrench, and I'm sure, they'll reveal another cameo appearance, too. Speaking of cameos, though, let's talk really quick about Cameo games. And wow, I know, like, after talking about the possibility of a new Donkey Kong game and Rare and Playtonic games, I know Cameo games are a big low point to end on, but, you know, Cameo games aren't all just filler. Like, there are some Cameo games that DK Vine holds in high esteem, and one of those series is Mario Golf. And, you know, Jeff, you brought this up when we were talking about what we would be discussing on this episode, is the possibility of a new Mario Golf game for the Switch, because it has been quite a long time since we've had a new entry in the Mario Golf series from Camelot. And we had Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch. That was the one, right? Aces? Yeah. So
it was 3 years between Camelot made Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on the Wii U, and then 3 years later they came out with Mario Tennis Aces. And this year is now 3 years since the release of Mario Tennis Aces. So if they're going to work on another Mario Cameo game, which they've done pretty consistently, we would think they'd be ready to come out with one this year. And it's been like a lot of years since they did Mario Golf. I think back on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'd do another tennis on the Switch when they already have a tennis on the Switch. So I'm thinking, you know, there's no inside knowledge at all, throwing my chips on the table for Mario Golf on the Switch in 2021.
Mario Golf Putter Flutter coming to Switch. I don't know what it would be called, but yeah, I think that's a likely bet, and I'm kind of surprised. It feels like they kind of put Mario Golf on ice and just focus on Mario Tennis, which, you know, I haven't checked sales figures, but maybe Mario Tennis just sells better than Mario Golf. But we're probably overdue for Mario Golf, and that's always been my favorite between the two. So, and, you know, Camelot has always been very faithful and supportive of the Donkey Kong cast. They were the first one to put Diddy Kong in a Cameo game, so I think, you know, it's always kind of exciting to see what Camelot will do. And, you know, who knows, maybe, you know, if it comes out after the new Donkey Kong game is announced, we might even see some reflection of the new Donkey Kong, whatever, aesthetics, environments, whatever, in this game. But who knows? There's also, it's a bit surprising we have not seen yet another Mario Party sequel after Super Mario Party kind of reset the franchise a little bit, and made it a little bit more noteworthy again after it was driven into the ground by annual releases and just diminishing returns. Super Mario Party was kind of a return to form. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I wasn't annoyed by Mario Party. This is great. And I'm kind of glad there hasn't been a sequel, and I don't think there needs to be a sequel, and I'm hoping everyone involved realizes that maybe Mario Party should just be this one game per console kind of release like Mario Kart, rather than something that they just milk until the udders are bone dry.
The reason I think we're going to get another one, and it might not be this year, is because ND Cube, who develops these games, this is all they make. I mean, they did the Wii Party and Wii U Party games, and they did the more recent Mario Parties. I think Mario Party 9, 10, the two, maybe one or two of them on the 3DS, and then Super Mario Party. And it's been 3 years since Super Mario Party. However, I did just look up before we started recording. They made the, what's it called? World Clubhouse Games or whatever that just released on Switch in 2020. And so I don't know much about that game. I'm not sure how much development time it took, or if it's a full-size game or what it is. Really, I know it's got like a bunch of little, you know, you can play Domino's and
Pizza Hut.
Yeah, and Domino's and Pizza Hut and Arby's. We have the meats.
Oh God!
But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna jump. I forgot they made that one, so I'm thinking, it's been 3 years since they made a game. They're definitely making Super Mario Party sequel. It was very conspicuous that Super Mario Party didn't do any DLC at all in this kind of era where most of Nintendo's games are doing something for DLC.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if they're not doing DLC, it's been 3 years, they're making a Mario Party for sure. And they did announce recently that they're hiring for a next new game, but they did just come out with that one in 2020, so we'll see. Maybe not.
Maybe it's going to be Donkey Kong Party. Maybe why do a Mario sequel when you could just do a Donkey Kong?
Swanky Kong Party.
You know, I have this idea for Donkey Kong Party in my head, that the trailer at least, where you use the Beastie Boys fight for your right to party.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Just do a parody of that music video, but with the Kongs as the Beastie Boys and like the nerds as the Mario cast. So like they're about to have a Mario Party, and then like Funky Kong comes in with his booze and his pot, and he's just like sits on the couch with them, and they're like, oh, that's my idea. Nintendo, why haven't you done that?
The Beastie Boys are PlayStation fans.
Oh, that's just, well, one of them is dead, so they're not a fan of anything right now.
Video games in heaven. Anyway, in the topic of cameo games, it would be hard to ignore the king of cameo games, Super Smash Brothers, and the king of Super Smash Brothers games, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Yeah.
Which still has, I think, three more fighters coming.
I've lost track, honestly. Once we got Banjo and Kazooie, it just kind of felt like, okay, whatever they want to do is fine. I don't really care. And it's been interesting to see, like, oh, Steve from Minecraft, cool. But, it's just, it is what it is. I'm happy for whatever franchise gets their characters. I'm not necessarily expecting us to ever get Dixie Kong and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Conker, as you so eloquently put it, is a squirrel that pisses, and I don't think that will ever happen either. So, Dixie would be the more likely character, but I just don't see it. I don't think it's in the cards. I think
if you're doing something for DLC that's supposed to be kind of flashy and maybe unexpected, I honestly think Cranky Kong has a better odds than Dixie if we're talking DLC fighter. But anyway, I feel like you have to mention Smash Brothers and that potential that's there. But neither of you or I believe that any of the rest of the DLC will be DKU.
No, and again, that's fine. I'm disappointed for the DKU fans who really wanted Dixie, who Dixie is their favorite character. But we got K. Rool and Banjo and Kazooie, and those were the characters I think we really wanted. The characters who would mean the most for the DKU, and we got them. So I'm kind of content with Smash Brothers. Yeah,
that's the way. Yeah, roll with the punches and just see what we get is where we're at.
That sounds like another Bidenism. Yeah,
folks, we're gonna have to roll with the punches. I don't know why. I don't know. He's funny. Anyway.
All in all, I'm looking forward to what's ahead, Jeff. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm looking forward to what's ahead for the DKU. I think we're about to enter a new era. This era that we've called the Renaissance, I think. We're about to turn the page on it. We're about to enter something that's built on that. And it's exciting. I can't wait to see what's ahead. And out of all the stress of last year, because this was a weird year for the Kongversation. I had a lot of plans for episodes we wanted to do, and then the pandemics happened, and I kind of shuffled things around, and we never really got back on track. And I didn't even have a silly contest this year. That's how just off this whole year has been. I didn't hide anything in every single episode of the Kongversation. So there is one thing that's remained unexplained, though, Jeff, and I'm not sure, but starting around E3, or maybe a little bit before, there seemed to be some demonic incursions in your residence. Almost like there was a portal from hell directly underneath your neighborhood or something. And I was hoping by the end of the season we would have more light on that. But I'm sure it's not important. It's just one of those loose ends that will never be tied up.
I have an update. HMO in Hell stands for Hell Mouth Opening. They're gonna chuck me in the portal back to Earth.
This has been a File 2 production.
¡Qué rico!